Simpler. Simpler appears to be a very basic sampler plugin, but it has a surprising number of sonic possibilities for you tweakers out there. I will go through the various functions. I have a MIDI clip set up called Chord 1 that I got from my presets. For ease, I think I'll choose the house organ sample Organic. First, I'd like to add some bite by adjusting the start time of the sample. The type of effect this will have depends on the characteristic of the sample itself. Let's go over the controls of our sample section. The sample controls affect which region of the sample is used by Simpler, which can change the way a particular waveform sounds dramatically. Let's start by adjusting the start time of the sample. Notice the start time changes are highlighted in the sample area, and more importantly, the sonic characteristics change at different start times. Loop changes which part of the chosen region is looped, and changing it affects the sound. Adjusting the length affects how long the loop is, and adjusting it has a dramatic effect on the sound. Adjusting the fade chooses how much crossfading is used on the loop portion. If we get some undesirable sounds by trying to loop on a transient, we can use our snap button and help mitigate against this. So Simpler will look for the nearest zero crossing to loop the desired region of the sample. These controls will do different things to the sound depending on which part of the sample you are dealing with, so have fun experimenting. ADSR. I'd like to make the sound a little tighter, so let's shorten the decay on the sample. Let's go to our ADSR section and shorten the decay a little, and maybe a little less release as well. We could also have fun changing the attack, but for now we'll leave it where it is. We can also apply separate envelopes to filter and pitch too. Notice that both pitch and filter sections have an ENV amount selector, which dictates the strength at which they will follow the envelope. We will leave these settings unchanged, but feel free to come back and play around. Next, let's go to our filter section. Turn our filter on and turn down our frequency. We can select our filter type here. I'm going to select High Pass Filter 2. We can adjust filter settings in the customary way: the cutoff frequency, resonance, and envelope. We can set the filter to oscillate using the LFO knob. You can turn this LFO on and crank the rate, but we won't hear it applied to the filter until we turn up the LFO amount here. We can also adjust the key tracking to let the note affect the LFO frequency. If we wanted a choppier sound, we can choose a square wave for our LFO, but I kinda like the sine wave, so let's leave it. Pitch section. Let's make this into more of a techno loop by playing with the pitch section. Change some transpose settings. Apply some LFO. Turn on the glide, which gives us a portamento effect. Turn on the spread feature, which adds a stereo chorus. Finally, we have our master volume to control the volume, and our master velocity, which changes the velocity curve of the instrument. Higher settings make for louder, heavier sounds, while lower settings give maximum dynamic. The LFO box uses the LFO to fluctuate the volume. Voices. By the way, if we are low in RAM, we can decrease the number of voices Simpler can play at one time. A light comes on when voice stealing occurs, meaning we are trying to play back more voices than Simpler is currently set to play. Just for fun, let's add a drum beat. And maybe some effects. See how far we've come? Oh, I forgot to tell you, we can add our own sounds to Simpler. Here's a vocoder line I made up. Here's what it sounds like.
Make me so mad.
Now let's tweak it out. Listen as I change the start length and the loop values. Let's take off that LFO and the glide. As powerful as this plugin is, nothing could be simpler.